What's up, everyone? My name is Rad, and I am here today bringing you my ultimate class and team build guide for Alchemy Stars. I'll be going over the class types and my recommendations on how to approach squad forming. I'm not quite sure how long this video will be, so reminder as always that there will be timestamps down below in the description. Without further ado, let's drop that transition. So first, we'll go over the types of classes in Alchemy Stars. They consist of converters, snipers, detonators, and supports. All right, let's break them down. First up, converters. Units of the converter class have skills that enable them to convert the chessboard tiles to the color of their elemental attribute. For example, as you can see here, my Sharona, who is a water element, is currently around tiles that aren't the color blue, which is water. But if I use a LeBlanc skill, she'll be able to convert 4 tiles in a diamond shaped pattern around me, and that'll turn them blue. Or if I use my Serial skill, she can convert the nearest red or green tiles to blue. This is great because it'll potentially help me trigger a chain combo I otherwise wouldn't have had. I personally believe that it should be a staple to have at least one converter on your team at all times. They are incredibly invaluable and can definitely make life easier in my opinion. Next up, supports. Now when I say supports, it is not just strictly healers for me. It is also talking about buffers and debuffers and utility as well. There are some support units out there that can do both of them actually through their skills. As for healers, it's pretty straightforward. They provide healing for a team. For most healers, their healing capabilities are based upon their attack stat. Now, as for buffers and debuffers, there are a good bunch of them. Now, unfortunately, my gameplay of them was corrupted for some reason, so my apologies for that. I'll just give a quick rundown of both of them instead. For buffers, some consist of attack buffs, defense buffs, HP buffs, shields, damage resistance, etc. For debuffers, some units can cause burn, poison, bleed, etc. I would say that these types of units are highly dependent upon what kind of team you would like to run. If you run a team that mostly consists of fire, then having a burn debuffer is great to have. Apply that situation to all other elemental teams as well. Then there is also your utility. These units have skills that provide certain actions such as knockback, teleport, pull, stun, etc. Some as well are able to do both with their skills as well. I would say units like these are great for crowd controlling. They can definitely help you get out of a sticky situation or turn the tide in battle as well. In terms of how many supports you should have in a team and which ones you should use, that'll mainly be dependent upon what units you currently have. Though I will say that just like a converter, a healer is a staple to have on your team as well. Now, continuing on to detonators. Detonators are one of the 2 types of DPS Alchemy Stars. These types of units specialize in powerful AoE or area of effect damage attacks. Some will concentrate their damage in clusters, while others might do it through cross shapes or columns. I personally recommend to have at least one detonator on your team. Reason being, they are great at being able to take out grouped enemies, especially when there are weaker enemies clumped up together. Detonators are my personal favorite of the 2 DPS types. Speaking of 2 DPS types, the next one is snipers. Now, snipers are similar to detonators. The difference is though snipers tend to focus their attacks on either the nearest enemies or a cluster, sometimes multiple clusters of enemies. As you can see here, my Vivian can deal a certain amount of damage to either 3, 4, or 5 enemies within multiple clusters, whereas my Vice only deals damage to the nearest amount of enemies. The great thing about snipers is that they do their damage to multiple targets in a turn, or they are also great at providing high singular burst damage as well to an enemy. This is awesome because as the battle goes by, you can cause a lot of chip damage, or you can finish off enemies from a distance without having to put yourself in a risky situation. I will recommend to run one sniper on your team as well. I do want to quickly remind that these are just my recommendations. You don't have to run one sniper alongside one detonator. If you want to run 2 detonators, no snipers, or 2 snipers and no detonators, this is totally alright as well. I'm more so just giving general advice when it comes to how many of each class you should have on a team. Now we move on to team building. So I do want to preface this by saying that I understand not everyone will have the same characters or team compositions as I do. And I also understand that not everyone will like and or agree with the team compositions I recommend here. That is totally alright. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions and feelings. Now with that out of the way, I'll start off with the most popular composition I would say. That is the mono composition, which is right here in front of us. So what is a mono composition? Basically, it's when you run only one elemental attribute throughout your whole team. For example, as you can see here, I have 5 water attribute characters on this team. Now, to my knowledge and research I have done, apparently a water mono team is the most balanced of the elemental attribute teams. 2 reasons. 1, it's easily more accessible due to getting 3 super solid water units early on. And 2, they have the most elemental characters in their position, meaning there is an abundance of them. This also makes them incredibly free to play friendly to those who don't want to spend any of their hard-earned money on the game, which is nice. What I would say is that if you do run a mono elemental team in general, I would recommend having a very good converter, if not 2 on the team, since you won't be making use of the other elemental tiles during battle in terms of chain combos. You're going to need to maximize your tile conversion. Now, the next composition is what I call mostly mono plus a flex. That meaning you have 4 of the same elemental attribute characters on a team and 1 that is of a different element. The one that is of a different element, in my case, it would be Leona here. You want to make sure that they are set on the captain slot of your team in the formation. Reason for this is because you'll make use of their elemental tiles while also making use of your mostly mono elemental tiles as well during battle. Now, while this setup I say isn't as strong as a straight up mono team build only, it does provide the luxury of having an extra elemental attribute on your team to be able to counter other elements in battle. And it'll also take some pressure off from only having to use a certain color tile as well. I do want to say though that if you do run this, I highly recommend that your flex is a DPS unit. So either a detonator or a ranger. My last team composition is quite an interesting one. I call it 122. It's basically one character of a certain element alongside 2 cells of the same element. So for example, as you can see here, I have Leona for the fire, I have Sharona and Sario for water, and I have Vivian and Dana for thunder. Now, I am aware this team composition doesn't have any healers. I'm just showing it for demonstrative purposes. With this team composition, albeit a bit less powerful than the previous 2 I mentioned, it does provide more flexibility in terms of being able to cover more elemental attributes during battle, and you are also making much more use and taking advantage of the chessboard tiles as well, so you don't have to worry about connecting to only one color tile all the time. Personally, for me, this composition is more of a fun one to use. It's only been 3 days, but I have already gotten pretty bored of just mono compositions, and trying this one out was actually quite refreshing, just because there is a variety of ways you can approach forming a team like this. You can definitely get some good results and do well for throughout most of the content in the game. It is just that if you are looking for the most powerful team composition, this probably won't be it for you. Just remember, play with who you want and how you want. Whatever you choose, there is no right or wrong. It's all about enjoying the experience and having fun at the end of the day. So yeah, that's basically it. I try to be as in-depth as possible. Hopefully this will help some of you out there as well. I'm definitely excited to see what compositions come about in the future. Let me know some of your favorite down below in the comments section. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing. I definitely would appreciate that. Also, rate me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you liked or disliked the content today. All constructive criticism is welcomed. My name is Rad. You're all awesome. See you later.